Hey guys, welcome back for another video. A bit of a different video here today than what I've done in the past. If you guys like this, please let me know. I'll continue to do these. If you guys don't like them, I will stop doing these. But I think everyone's been kind of seeing that Rory has been undergoing some swing changes. I think what's been very interesting to note, which actually helps a lot of people out, is he said that he locked himself in his studio for 3 weeks hitting into a blank screen, not caring about result, only focusing on the movement. I can't stress enough how important that is for not just someone of his caliber, but for your everyday golfer, not getting distracted by the short-term results. Movement is so important. If you move well, results will come. So I'm really glad that Rory shared that with everyone, that he just locked himself indoors at the studio for 3 weeks, hitting balls in a blank screen, not looking at results. So I think a lot of us, every one of us can learn something from that. So before I go into this video, I just want to say this is all hypothetical. This is just my own personal opinion. I could be wrong. I could be right. It really does not matter. This is just a fun video to just share with you guys what I think could help Rory with the swing change. And it's going to be interesting to see how things develop with Rory. He is a way better golfer than I ever will be. He obviously knows way more than I do. This is again just a fun video. There's no way, shape, and form bashing him at all. He has one of my favorite golf swings on tour. I just want to be really, really clear. This is just personal opinion, just putting it out there for you guys. Hopefully, there's some learning content involved. Hope you guys enjoy these. We'll see. But let's take a look. So I just randomly searched up a Rory swing video on YouTube. This is from the USGA YouTube channel. Literally this first video that just came up from the 2024 US Open. So when we watch this, Rory obviously has a very, very athletic swing, okay? But things that really stick out to me that influences a lot of the misses that he struggles with is this. When he takes his takeaway, his hands actually move further away from his legs at setup. Okay, so when he moves his hands further away from his hands at setup, it early lifts and then he chases depth late. So when he chases depth late, it kind of puts his trail elbow in a spot that orbits behind his trail rib cage a bit too much, especially for someone that fast and that strong. He doesn't need to do that to try to chase more speed. And as a result of that, because his trail elbow is creeping more behind his rib cage and orbits behind his rib cage, it puts his club in a slightly across the line position. So when you're across the line, Rory hits huge draws. He shallows the club really, really nicely. He comes from the inside. When you're across the line like that, you have to cover so much more ground to shallow the club, okay? Someone who has the club in a slightly more laid off position already will have the club head behind the body, behind the hands coming into the ball. There's less movement, there's less variations coming into the ball. But because Rory is across the line, the club is actually on this side of the ball. It's in front, sorry, on this side of the hands, it's in front of his hands. He has to then get the club moving in this direction to get the club back behind his hands to be able to deliver the club into the ball in a slightly inside out fashion. So he's so athletic, he's so good. He obviously does this at such a high level. But at the end of the day, I think this is all just personal thoughts. I've never talked to him before. I think it's really caught up to him. That's making him start making these changes. So one, as soon as I saw that he was making changes, I really thought back to this swing here. So my friend Ian, a lot of so as soon as I saw that Rory was making changes and knowing that this is a very typical swing of Rory, slightly across the line, trail elbow orbits behind the rib cage, I thought of some swings that Ian made a few years ago when we were doing a little bit of work together. So I think this model could be a really, really good place for Rory to start. I'd be very interested to see what direction Rory takes with his swing changes. But what really stood out to me about Rory being, again, trail elbow orbits behind him too much, partially because his hands like to early lift away, making him chase depth late, help influencing him to be across the line, which makes him have to cover more ground to shallow it behind him. So what I did with Ian was I had him go hands slightly inside in the takeaway. Shaft still goes up very steep. We can see at this point, at left arm parallel to the ground, Ian's hands are a bit deeper compared to where Rory is at left arm parallel. So at left arm parallel to ground P3, um, I would say roughly there or so. Rory's hands are still between his shoulder and his neck. Ian's hands, we got it to more in line with his shoulder, so that from there, Ian has tons of depth already. He just has to work up and keep his elbows together, and it's more in front of his rib cage. As a result of this, this helps him get the club in a more laid off look position. It's not laid off at all in reality, in my opinion, but the club is in a bit more laid off look. Club head is already behind him, and that way, as he transitions, the shaft doesn't have to move as much from the top of backswing. It's already shallowing. The club is already behind his hands. He just has to really maintain this relationship, this wrist structure, and all he does has to do now is just downswing turn, and the club stays behind his hands very nicely. Nice shaft is shallowing a lot. It's very quiet shallowing. I really like quiet shallowing for a lot of people, especially if they're very fast already. Okay, Rory doesn't exactly have quiet shallowing. You can see again, early lift, chases depth late, trail elbow gets behind him a bit, and then makes him across the line, and then he has to then shallow a ton in a very short period of time. Versus Ian, he gets into a really good spot at the top back then, and then very quiet shallows, and from there he can just turn through the ball as much as he wants. Another video that I have of Ian a little bit later on with Ian, same thing, same takeaway, hands inside, club still works up nice and steep, but we were working on having his elbow stay a little bit more in front of him. So this was an in progress video. Elbow position is definitely different than the previous video. At the end of the day, I would like to see maybe a bit more width, a little bit more space between the elbow and rib cage while still keeping his elbow in front of his rib cage, in front of the seam of the shirt. But I think these two videos of Ian are really, really good models that I think Rory could work towards. Again, club slightly laid off luck, and from there, it quiet shallows very nicely as he changes direction. That's what I think would be a really good model for Rory to work towards. So I'm very excited to see what he ends up doing with a swing. So I would suggest hands slightly inside to get depth early, so then he can work straight up later in the backswing, so he's not chasing depth late, and then that will help put the club in a little bit more laid off position. May have to have him feel things to just feel like he lays off the club as he finishes his backswing. But again, never talked to him before, don't know what he has to feel. These are just kind of certain looks I would like to see him do as he gets to the top of the backswing, and then he get quiet shallow versus a more busy shallowing that Rory has employed for a long time. And again, he's such a good golfer. But I think it's really nice to see guys like this who are so good who still chase to be better. And I think it's the biggest lesson here is when he goes to work, he does not look at result. He locked himself in the sim for 3 weeks, hit into a blank screen just to focus on movement. And I think we can all learn from that. So hope this video helps some of you guys at the very least, inspire you guys to work on the right things. If you guys are in a similar boat as Rory with similar misses, hope this will help. In and up, keep the elbows together, slightly laid off position at the top. That should help you guys minimize that overdraw miss if you guys like to be a little bit of an inside out player. So hope that helps. Any questions, leave in the comments below, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks, guys.